Hey friends, are you done with dating apps? Tired of swiping through profiles and superficial chats that go nowhere? Well, swipe left on those boring rituals. Introducing DoneWithDating, the free podcast-driven dating platform that's bringing human interaction back. We sit down with incredible singles for real conversations on our weekly podcast. Listeners like you get to know them deeply, then apply to date guests or step into the mic yourself. Plus, we host experts that discuss the dating world and provide advice on self-improvement techniques when you are taking a break from dating or focusing on yourself. Made for the bold, built for connection. Your dating journey redefined through the mic. Head to donewithdating.co right now and apply. It's all free. Your perfect match is one episode away. Hey everybody. Today I have with me Sarah Curnoles. She's a breakup coach, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Hey Sarah, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me, John. I love talking about this topic. So when I found your podcast through our mutual friend, I was like, what a brilliant name. I can't wait to talk about this.
Thanks. And you've hosted me before.
Yes.
So I wanted to return the favor. And I've had a lot of people talk about different aspects of relationships, but we haven't focused specifically on breaking up yet. So I wanted to have you on because I feel like your knowledge and expertise in this will really help people who might be in the thick of it right now, or maybe approaching a breakup or, divorce or whatever the case may be. So do you mind just telling everybody a little bit about yourself to start, please?
Absolutely. So I've been a life coach for 9 years, but really I started focusing on breakups after I went through a big breakup myself. I was in a relationship for 4.5 years. We were living together and I thought I had found my person. I thought we were going to be spending the rest of our life together. And really, in hindsight, I can see this. I couldn't see it at the time that I was somebody who really hated dating, and I was staying in that relationship and doing everything I could to keep that relationship because like your title says, I was just so done with dating. I didn't want to go back into that. And I was really settling of like, this is good. This is really great. Like, I'm just going to make this one work. Except we weren't very compatible. We had a lot of love for each other, but we were not compatible life partners. And he had courage that I didn't. And he told me, Sarah, I love you. I just don't see a life with you. And we ended the relationship. And when a relationship ends and you love the person, there's no one to blame, right? There's no one like, oh, they cheated. They're the bad person. Nope. You're just stuck with your grief and your sadness. And I had to really reckon with my feelings for the first time of really feeling how bad it is. Here comes the cat. So for the video people, they get to see the cat in the background, but the people who are just listening, my sister's cat has joined us. Of course, they like to make cameos, don't they?
They do.
So, yeah, I had to learn how to grieve, how to let go of a relationship, and I think it was also a blessing because I couldn't even blame myself. I had done everything I could for that relationship. I'd really tried, so I couldn't beat myself up. There wasn't anything there. It almost forced me in this place to stop what I used to do, which was, what could I have done differently? How could I have saved this? And all the beating yourself up questions that sometimes people have after a breakup. But I used all my coaching tools that I had and moved myself through the breakup. And at a certain point, I realized I'm doing this differently. I think it's different than what anybody else does with a breakup. I really think more people could benefit from having a process to follow instead of just winging it and saying, I guess time will heal all wounds and I'll get over it eventually.
Yeah.
But no, like there's step-by-step process. There's a way to go through it, which now I do that full time as my business. And I get to help people really turn it into a portal of who do you want to be on the other side now that relationship's over? Who do you want to become?
That makes a lot of sense. And So how many steps would you say there is between the beginning and the end? Does it kind of follow like the grief phases or some similar thing like that?
I think I would say they're more, I think the problem with the grief phases is that it almost sounds like it's going to be linear, right? Of like
Hmm.
you do this and then you do this and then you do this. And unfortunately, it's not the same process for everybody. There are
Hmm.
definitely some commonalities. I think of it's kind of 4 big steps, but a lot could happen within those. And the problem with the grief phases is that when somebody has a backslide, I'm going to call it a quote unquote backslide because I don't see it as a backslide. But when somebody has a moment where they're making progress, they're not ruminating over their ex anymore. They're having days where they're not crying. And then months go by and all of a sudden that starts happening again. It's actually really normal. It's not a problem. It's a part of healing for some people. It's almost like a circling back and feeling the grief a little bit deeper. But I call my process from hot mess to badass because I think we all start as a hot mess after the breakup. We feel like we're falling apart. Like the world as we knew it is gone. And that is going to have a set of tools to help you let yourself feel fully, to let yourself grieve, to create some comfort for yourself. And that's going to look really different than as you start to rebuild and telling a different story. Those steps are going to be different.
Sure, that makes sense. And so, can you take us through what someone's body actually need from them?
Yeah.
Is it a combination of rest, movement, food, or just companionship with others?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of nailed it. It pretty much is obvious, but I like to think about, if you had broken your arm and you go to the doctor, the very first thing the doctor says is we're going to make you as comfortable as possible. Because when you're in pain, you need to lessen the suffering as much as possible so that you can go through a healing process. So the doctor's going to, make sure that it's in a sling, right? And if the pain's bad enough, you might have some Advil or something that you're taking. What that looks like with a broken heart is I call it like you're going to create a cozy cocoon phase. So create some cozy habits for yourself and your home. If it's curling up with a blanket and a hot cup of tea and a stuffed animal and you're going to watch your favorite TV show, perfect, right? Like have some sort of really cozy habits that you can have for yourself. And I like to think of the senses, like something that smells good, something that tastes good, something that feels good. So that's a way that people can start to get back into that. And there is actual science behind comfort food. Soups and stews are actually really soothing. Sometimes when we're in that phase where like, I don't even know who I am, the last thing we want to think about is eating. A lot of people lose their appetite. But if you eat a soup, it's actually very easy to digest and you can still get nutrients. And also, that's something easy when you have friends who are like, how can I help? You could say, well, can you bring me soup? And a lot of people love that because they get to show up for you exactly the way that you want them to. And it's something specific. A lot of my friends and a lot of my clients say it's hard because I'm in my 40s. So are my clients. They're often in their late 30s and their 40s. All their friends are married. And it's hard to relate when the friends don't really know what it's like to go through a breakup at this age. But if you tell them something specific of like, can you come over and we're just going to watch Will and Grace? Can you come over and bring me soup? That actually gives them something really specific to do.
So, in the situation where obviously when it's just starting, when you are just going through the breakup, everything reminds you of the breakup, right? I've had a lot of difficult ones throughout my life. I've been in a series of long, very emotionally involved relationships. And there are times where it just feels like nowhere that you turn, nowhere that you look, nothing that you listen to or watch is going to get your mind off of the breakup, right? So, yeah, I think you gave some great advice about what that initial time frame needs to look like. But when a trigger hits, like a song or a place, memory, something on social media, which obviously the algorithms are terrible for this. What's the first thing that shows up in someone's body And then what is something that you can give as a tip to make them maybe be able to deal with that a little bit better?
So my advice is going to be, it's going to sound counterintuitive, because what's happening with the trigger is it's really showing that you were attached to that person, that you cared about that person, right? That's why there is an association with, let's say it's a favorite song, right? Like a really romantic song comes on and you're like, oh, that was the one that we listened to and it makes me think of them. Mine was Wagon Wheel. I had Wagon Wheel was like the first time I danced with an ex. And just think how often that song comes on. Everybody plays Wagon Wheel, like weddings and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So what happens first is actually the memory comes up, and then the natural instinct is to sort of like, it's almost like a flinch where we tense up and we're like, oh my God, no, I don't want to feel these feelings. That's resistance. So I want you to notice that resistant reaction that comes up where you're like, I can't feel this. I don't want to feel it. Make it stop. Make it go away. Right? Where you're like, it's almost a panic. Mm-hmm. I want you to start with that first and soothe that reaction. Because what we need to do is we need to stop resisting the fact that you're having a memory, the fact that you're having a trigger. We need to make it okay that that's happening. So the trick I use is the phrase, of course. Of course I'm having a reaction to hearing Wagon Wheel. That was our song. And that lets my body calm down of like, okay, so it's normal I'm having a reaction. So then what happens is you relax a little bit and you're like, okay, I get to just be a little uncomfortable. And I tell myself, this isn't going to be like this forever. This is temporary. I'm relearning. I'm unlearning this. And you know what? For the first couple months, maybe you turn off the song. If you don't have to listen to Wagon Wheel, like go to the bathroom, get out of the room. You don't have to sit through the thing that's uncomfortable. Turn off the radio. I usually had a rule for myself of like no songs with words for like a month after a breakup, right? I don't want anything. Whatever parameters you have to put around it for yourself, you get to do that. And give yourself some space to get further along in your healing so that you feel a little bit stronger where you can start creating new associations. So, now I can hear that song and I have no problem. But I had to give it some space, give it some time, and stop reacting like it's a problem. Because when we react to something like it's a problem, it keeps being a problem. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, so in a breakup I had a couple of years ago, it was more like shock for me. And I could go through shows we would watch or songs we would have listened to with no problem for a while. And it was just, I was numb.
Yeah.
I kind of expected that at some point the relationship would end due to unforeseen, like it's kind of things that I saw, but was probably going to happen down the road. But anyway, that's a story for another day. We could take a whole episode on that. But I was actually at some points questioning, like, am I a sociopath? Because I'm not at all I just felt numb. I didn't feel like pain, which I had felt in many other breakups. Until maybe like 6 months or a year later when I saw a photo of them pop up on LinkedIn and I was like, oh, like that hit me. And I was like, oh, like I didn't expect that, and I think your idea of saying, of course, that's great. And also it made me feel better. Like I wasn't crazy or I wasn't like some cold hearted person, that the shock wore off now. And I was actually able to start to feel that, but it didn't, I felt it. I let myself feel it and I go through it and then it was over.
Yes, the numbness or the shock is common, and it'll last longer or shorter for people in different situations. But it's the same thing if you were in a car accident and your body was in shock and you're not feeling it, it's your body's way of protecting you. So you're not going to feel more than you're able to feel. And if you're feeling numb, you're not a sociopath.
Good to know.
You're not a sociopath.
Good
you're
for
just
the audience to hear.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not a sociopath. It's normal to have numbness. And when you're ready, it appears. That's also why I think sometimes it circles back of sometimes that grief really does go in layers like an onion of you felt the top layer and you got a little further, you got a little stronger, you got more capable at handling it, and then another wave of it can come up. So that's normal.
Oh, that's good. That makes me feel better. Actually, I've never talked about this with anybody, so I appreciate you talking to me about that.
My pleasure.
It's great. So thank you. As far as when a breakup happens and someone starts to try to process it and they're dealing with some kind of what they might consider an old abandonment or like a worthiness wound, what would it look like for them to try to break that pattern of that wanting to be like, well, of course this happened because of this that you did,
Did
or
you just
something like that.
weaponize my own tool against me? Of course.
Oh, I didn't mean to, but no.
No, but you're right. No, that's exactly what somebody would be thinking of like, of course this happened. Everybody leaves me, right? That's the abandonment wound talking. So you're absolutely right of our stories sometimes become our filter for how we experience our life. And I will say it's one of the benefits of working with a coach because it's hard for you to see it. It's your everyday world. It's that old saying of a fish doesn't know it's swimming in water. So your beliefs kind of become a little blind to you. They're your blind spots. And the abandonment wound is one that I deal with a lot because it's one that I had, and I had to do a lot of work around it. And part of that work is looking at realizing where that came from and telling yourself now is not then. What I'm going through right now is a separate situation from what happened in the past, right? So we can definitely do work like inner child healing work is really useful of treating your child the way that you wish you had been treated as a kid. Giving yourself that love and grace is very healing, but also checking in of what is it that I actually need right now? What do I need to feel? And maybe how do I want to rewrite this story where it's not abandonment? And that's a tool I use a lot is rewriting somebody's story. So, for example, I had a client who had a breakup with somebody that it was similar to mine of she thought this was my person. But again, they weren't really fully aligned. He wanted kids. She didn't. She has anxiety. He wasn't comfortable with her anxiety and had a lot of resistance around that and a lot of uncomfortability with her moving through those periods of her life. So she was telling this story of everybody leaves me, all my relationships end. I'm too much to handle. And I said, how do we rewrite this story in a way that honors your experience here? Because she was actually the one that ended the relationship because she decided, she was like, this isn't how I want to keep living my life. This isn't a good fit for me. And she was neglecting that story because she kept saying, everybody leaves me, all my relationships end. So we had to retell her story to remember, I saw that his behavior was XYZ, and I decided I have to choose myself. And so her new story became, I choose myself. And she got to learn how to retell her story and reinforce that to herself over and over and over again. I choose myself. What I want matters. The right person will stay. So we have to learn how to also rewrite our story to suit the life that we want to create.
Yeah, and that's a powerful comment that you just made in terms of someone thinking that they are too much for people, but you're rewriting that to say like, no, the right person will stay.
Yes.
And it might take a while to find that right person. And it could be really an incredible fit once they come into her life.
Yes, absolutely. It's also a lot easier. The reason I love working with people going through a breakup because we get to talk about this in real time and we get to talk about what you really want. Because you do want a relationship, one, with somebody who stays, but two, with somebody who loves all of you, not somebody who tries to like pick and choose what's lovable about you. You want the person that's like, yeah, you have anxiety. I love you. I love you. I love your anxiety. Your anxiety is almost cute to me. Like, oh my goodness, let me like hold you and hug you through this moment. Like, I got you. What do you need? Not the one who's like, well, can you go for a walk and take care of that? Right? Like that dismissive behavior isn't something that you
Right.
want anyway. So we get to identify what were the pieces of the behavior that you didn't like, that you don't want to keep, you don't want to repeat it, and we get to leave that in the past while also deciding what do you want in the future, and we get to decide that that's possible for you.
So in a situation like that, how do you help someone to reestablish their identity or their standards when it comes to what they expect in a relationship and reestablishing that vision for who they are and then also potentially their standards?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been working on with some of my clients is it's funny how we neglect the love that's already in our life and we discount it because it's not romantic. You know, she has a lot of really great, deep friendships where these people love her. They don't have the anxiety as a problem. They don't mind that she has those feelings and they love her. And she discounts it of like, well, but that's not romantic, so it doesn't count. It absolutely counts. Love is love, and it's not hierarchical. And what happens is that we put that romantic love on a pedestal and we feel like our friends aren't as important. But when we start embracing, like, I already have people who love me as I am. I don't have to change my personality. I don't have to change who I am when I'm around these people. And then we can focus on, well, how is that easy with your friends? And we get to make that bigger and bigger and bigger to expand how it could be comfortable in a romantic relationship. Friendship and romantic relationships, they're not that different in some ways, right? You want to be accepted and loved for all of who you are. So I often say we start where it's easy, like friendships, and we practice there so that you can practice where it's harder if you're challenged being yourself in a romantic relationship.
Yeah, and I've seen it too. Sometimes you lose those friendships where they don't meet the standards that you need.
That's right.
And that can, in the same way, function like relationships that way too.
That's right.
So when someone's in the thick of it, I had a guest on, Stephen Paul Edwards. He had written a book, and it was like this absolutely insane situation in his life. But he talks about saying that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And if you take that as a mantra, or at least adopt it somewhat, that might look like the breakup isn't a failure, but an invitation to helping you learn about yourself and get to the next version of who you are.
That's
Does
right.
that kind of make sense?
Totally.
To you?
Yeah. And the way that I put it, I sometimes find those really helpful quotes are really hard at the beginning of a relationship. Like everything happens for a reason. It almost feels like you're minimizing the pain I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
So this whole
right.
thing, the idea of like, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. It's almost hard when you're right at the beginning because you're like, but this really hurts. I don't want this
Right.
to be happening right now. So there's a quote I really love to use because I find it holds the whole journey. And it was Reverend Michael Beckwith who said, pain pushes until vision pulls. Pain pushes until vision pulls. What I love about that is oftentimes our pain is the thing that is causing us to grow, to change, to make a new choice. So we're going through this pain and we sit with it. We're like, what's in my control here? What do I want to grow through here? What do I need to learn, or what do I need to heal, or how do I love myself more deeply? And that pain will get you so far. But what I love is that you don't have to always change only by pain. You can also change by setting a vision of, okay, so if I want a new relationship, what does that look like? Who do I have to become for that kind of relationship, to let that love into my life? So then we can use that vision to move us forward.
That's incredible. And it's hard for people to visualize it right when they're in the middle of it.
Right. But you can acknowledge, like, I'm in a lot of pain right now, and that's pushing me forward. Like, I know I got to change because I don't want to keep feeling this pain.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So in a situation where someone, it's in rom-coms all the time, you see someone like devastated and hung up on someone until all of a sudden something switches
Yeah.
in their life, and real life can be that way too, right? So how do you know? What are some tools that you give someone to basically check in on themselves to know that either emotionally, energetically, however the case may be, that they're not stuck on the previous relationship anymore?
I find one of the best. Well, okay, let me give the caveat here because I don't want to be anybody's moral compass. So when we're talking about getting back into dating, I tell people you get to make your choices. As a coach, I'm not your moral compass. I'm going to give you tools. I'm going to provide perspective and new ways of looking at things. But hey, we're human beings. You all are going to, like, everybody's going to make decisions for themselves. And that's actually, I love it when you make decisions. I'm not qualifying anything as a good or a bad decision. You make decisions. That's all. That's all I really want for people. So there are people that are like, I want to get back into dating right away. I think that's the only way through this. Okay, let me offer perspectives. I'm going to offer perspectives and you're going to make decisions. So we're going to look at this. But some people really are just going to go back out there and they're like, I just want to hook up with somebody. I just need that right now. That's okay. That's a choice. You get to make that choice. I just say, please be upfront with the person of what you're available for and what you're looking for. Don't say that you're looking to give your heart to somebody if your ex still has your heart. Don't say something is true when it's not. Just be upfront and honest about where you are with the process. So, all that said, when it comes to getting back into dating, if you're looking to date with the intention of, I want to commit a relationship or I want to fall in love again, I think the check-in point is my heart available for me to give it to someone else? That doesn't mean that you're not afraid of getting rejected or you're not afraid of being hurt. Just, am I at a place where I feel I'm available, that I have my heart to give and I have something to give to another person? Can I be fully present? Can I be there with that person? I know for myself personally, after my big breakup, I went speed dating and met some amazing men. And I went on a couple first dates and I was like, you know what? I'm not ready. And I met great people. And I just knew I'm not fully there yet where I feel like I'm ready to give anything to somebody because they were like really showing up. I was like, these are great men and I wish I was ready. But that was just how I felt of I don't have anything to give yet. And that's not how I want to be when I'm dating. So that would be my marker.
I track everything that you're saying. I completely agree with you. And I could tell you I had been on a lot of first, sometimes second dates, but mostly in this situation that you're talking about where the woman was not ready to start dating again. They were maybe just a month out of a relationship or like 6 weeks, couple months out of a relationship. And it was unfortunate. It's worked out for me now. So I found my right person, but it's unfortunate because we had so much in common, but they were just not ready, and then it kind of like kills the entire chance. And almost in some cases, when I was in the middle of this conversation, I dealt with so many people that were like that. I actually started to recognize the pattern. So like,
wow,
when someone started talking to me in a date situation, I would know, okay, we're not going to take this any further. Like, let's just have a nice night. And sometimes like literally I would say to them, it seems like you're really in a place where you're not ready to do this, but let's just have a nice evening and just enjoy each other's company. And then like, you can go back to what you're doing.
How did they respond to that? Because I really love that you're saying that, but how did they respond?
One of them cried.
Oh, well, there you go.
So she wasn't ready.
Spot on.
Another one was was pretty good with it, and it was kind of like, yeah, I mean, we'll just see where it goes. Actually, two or three were like, yeah, let's just see where it goes. But I think me kind of enforcing my standards on that, not getting involved emotionally beyond just maybe being a listening ear or something really helped, but it's really not helpful to a person who spends their time. Typically I was paying for the date, so like money, effort, to like have to then go out. And it happened to me so much that, like I said, I started to identify the pattern when it was like, oh, okay. And you can't necessarily see it in a text chain or in a dating profile. You have to experience it. And so it was hard for me. I couldn't edit it out. I couldn't filter out that experience until you got to the date. And then it's like, oh, you know what? Like, this person is really great. I think we'd have so much in common, but they came too soon.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that there was no one I was wrong about with that. I very rarely made that observation, you know, until it was maybe 20 minutes into a conversation or something. And I started to feel like my gut was telling me, oh yeah, this is not going to work. Um, but what was nice was, in all those situations, we had a nice dinner. We
Right.
had a nice evening because the pressure was now off. Like, they weren't, they didn't have to perform for me, but it just kind of sucked on my end because it's like, man, I drove 40 minutes for this, or, 30 minutes for this or whatever.
Also say it's why I'm a big fan of like a low pressure first date. Like,
Hmm.
I'm a girl, I don't have any problem with coffee on a first date, especially if we met
Yeah.
on the apps. Like, I agree with you. Dating can be expensive. And I think in the 2 dates that I went on at that time, I thought I was ready. I really did.
Hmm.
And because they were so great, I was like, oh, I can't match that. I can't step up to that. And that was really what it reflected back to me, was like, oh, okay, well, that's the caliber of the person I want,
Right.
but I can't meet them there.
Yeah. Timing was just not good for that. No, I never ended up talking to them ever again. It
Sure.
wasn't like I was like, oh, screw them. They were just not ready. And I think some of them still may not be ready, like a year later. Who knows?
Right.
No idea.
One of them did come back when he circled back like a year later, and we did go on a date, and we actually aren't compatible. Like,
Oh,
he's a
that's
nice
funny.
guy. We just really wanted different things in our life.
Yeah.
And I'm an entrepreneur. I want to be out there. I want to be helping people. I want a really big impact and I want a big life. And he wasn't fully okay with that. And that's okay. You don't have to
Yeah.
be, but that's not going to be my match.
That makes sense. So in terms of the last, what is some kind of mindset shift that you can give somebody, or whether it's an introduction to your 4-step process, what is some piece of advice that you want to leave the audience with?
I would say the more grace and compassion you can bring to yourself throughout the process, letting yourself know it's okay, I'm having emotions come up around this. It's okay, I'm having memories. This is a part of the healing and it won't be like this forever. This is just one piece and it's going to get better. The more that you can bring that compassion and that attitude of course this is happening. It's okay. This isn't a problem. It actually goes smoother and it'll go by faster. And I will say one of the ways that you can really help yourself through this is if you start thinking about, how can I have something bigger than me to commit to? So for me, it was, I'm going to figure this out so I can teach other people. But for a lot of my clients, it's getting into like a project that serves their community. They start volunteering. And what helps is they expand their world so it's not just about them, but they also get to give back to something. So it's really those two things of give yourself compassion and how can you shift your worldview to start seeing things just beyond yourself.
Yeah, because with volunteerism of a type, or getting into something new, there's a whole social aspect to it. There's some level of accomplishment in it, which makes you feel better, and you start to pull in success from other ways. So that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Great advice.
And you have to start showing up right? Like when you have a pet, you have to get out of bed and you have to take that dog for a walk, right? The pet needs care. So there's something really wonderful about if you have a place that you have to be, or you have a commitment that you're like, well, I have to show up for this and I'm going to show up as best I can. I might not be 100%, but I'm going to show up as best I can. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, and I appreciate this. I think people are going to learn a lot from you with this. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I host meetups regularly, which you can find. I have the link for that on my website, which is just my name, sarahcurnoles.com, or you can come to Instagram, where I am posting videos and tips. And I would really love to gift. I have a free breakup care kit that has all of that stuff about how to create coziness for yourself right at the beginning, a breakup healing meditation. So really a lot that'll help support you as you go through this transition. And I'd love to give that as my free gift.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, Sarah, thanks so much. I'm sure we'll be talking soon, and I'll be watching your stuff on Instagram and learning from your tips.
Thanks so much.
So if you're done with endless swiping and ready for something real, don't miss a single episode. Hit that subscribe button right now on your favorite podcast app and never miss the bold conversations that could change your dating life forever. Every week, we bring you incredible singles, excellent advice, raw stories, and real opportunities to connect, all for free. Subscribe today, apply at DoneWithDating.co, and turn your next listen into your next date. Your perfect match is waiting on the other side of the mic. It doesn't matter where you live, someone local is listening and will want to date you. We'll see you in the next episode. Subscribe now.